Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to start our last conic section. Conic section 4 is hyperbolas. Now, if we look at these equations, they look really familiar to what we had yesterday. The one main difference with ellipses, we were adding the two fractions, so there was always a plus sign in between them. For hyperbolas, there will always be a minus sign. But just like yesterday's, we will always set it equal to 1. Another main difference is our a squareds and our b squareds. Yesterday with ellipses, our a squareds were always the bigger number. That is not going to be the case for the hyperbolas. Your a squareds will always involve the quantity that I pulled a positive out from or factored out a positive number. What's above the b will be the ones where I factor out a negative number. So let's go down into the examples. Just like yesterday, I'm not going to focus on the foci or the distance from the center to the foci, but we are going to have to do the vertices. So just like we've been doing for any of the conic sections, we are going to start by grouping our like terms together. So in this first one, I'm going to group the 9x squared and the 54x plus, I am going to put a plus there and we'll see why in a second, a negative 4y squared and a negative 16y. And just like I've been doing to get the positive 29 to the other side, I am going to subtract it. So first thing I'm going to do is factor out what we have in common. So in the first parenthesis, I have a 9. So when I factor it out, I get x squared plus 6x plus blank. Now the next parenthesis, I have a negative 4y squared and a negative 16y. In order to complete the square, I must have a positive y squared. So I need to factor out a negative 4. So that makes my minus sign. And what's left is y squared plus 4y plus blank. Because when I factor out a negative 4, a negative 16 divided by a negative 4 is a positive 4. So on the other side, I have a negative 29 plus blank plus blank. So just like we've been doing to fill in the blank, I look at my b value. So it's 6 over 2 squared. Again, I'm not just adding a positive 6 over 2 squared. I'm adding 9 copies of it. So I'm going to bring down the coefficient along with my b over 2 squared. Here, it's going to be 4 over 2 squared. But this time, I need to bring the negative 4 with it. So it's going to be a negative 4 times 4 over 2 squared. So from here, we're going to factor. Bring down my 9, bring down my letter, bring down my sign. Half of 6 is 3, square on the outside. Minus 4 times y plus 2 squared. When I combine all of those like terms, I get 36. Just like yesterday, it's not done until it's equal to 1. So I'm going to divide everything by 36. Sorry, that's not negative 36, it's positive. So I get x plus 3 squared over 4 minus y plus 2 squared over 9 equals 1. Now that is the correct standard form, even though my first denominator is not bigger. Because remember, on hyperbolas, I want the minus sign second. So I need to look at what my first variable is. It's an x. Therefore, the direction of my transverse axis will be horizontal. My center. So a -3 goes with the x, and a -2 goes with the y. So this right here tells me my a squared value. So a squared equals 4. A equals 2. My transverse axis will be 2 times 2, which is 4. My conjugate axis goes with this number. So my b squared equals 9. B equals 3. So my conjugate axis is 2 times 3, which is 6. So from here, we're going to do our vertices. Our formula up above said h plus or minus a. So we're going to do both of those. So for my vertices, I am going to do -3 plus or minus 2, comma, -2. So -3 plus 2, that's a -1, -2, and -3 minus 2, that's a -5, -2. So let's go ahead and graph this. First thing I'm going to do is graph my center. So my center is -3, -2. From here, we are going to draw our transverse axis. This is horizontal. So from my center point, I'm going to do 2 to the right, and I'm going to do 2 to the left. That gives me a transverse axis that has a length of 4. My conjugate axis is going to go the opposite way. So instead of left, right, it's up, down. So I'm going to go up 3 and down 3. Now, what we've done here in the past is we've used those points to make our graph. That is not going to happen this time. Those points are actually not even inside of the graph. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a box. Okay? You need to do this with a ruler and do it as straight as you can, because this box is going to give me my asymptotes. Okay, these are the lines that my graph is going to come ever close to, but never ever touch. Now, the one thing with the box is the side of the box did give me my 2 vertices. Okay, so this point and this point will be part of my graph, but the rest of the box will not. In fact, my 2 graphs will go away from the box. So just like we've done in any other type of graph, our asymptotes are going to be dotted lines. We're going to use red dotted lines, and we are basically going to do through the corners of my box. Okay. Please, again, use a ruler. The straighter it is, the more exact it is, the better it is. But this is how we get our asymptotes. They are from the corner of the box, and the center of my hyperbola is how they came about. Once we have our asymptotes, we can now graph our function. We don't need any more points. all we need is the vertice and the asymptotes. So we are going to use our vertice and our asymptotes to guide our line. They're going to come ever close to the red lines, but not cross them. And it will go through the vertex of our graph. And there is your hyperbola. So those dark blue lines that I just drew, not the box, but the ones I just drew, are my hyperbola. So let's look at the next one. Example 2. Still, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to group my like terms together. So I have a negative 4x squared and a negative 16x plus y squared minus 2y, and take my constant to the other side. So I have a 31. I'm going to go ahead and factor out here. The first one I'm going to factor out a negative 4 because, again, remember, we need a positive x squared in order to complete the square. So I have x squared plus 4x plus blank. And you'll notice on my note sheet that I have a mistake there. That should be a plus 4. So on the next one, I'm going to go ahead, put a plus sign, nothing to factor out, so it's just y squared minus 2y plus blank. And that all equals 31 with 2 blanks. So let's go ahead and complete our square. So I have 4 over 2 squared. And I have negative 4 copies of that. Here I have 2 over 2 squared, and I only have 1 copy of that, so I'm just going to write it. So what I get is negative 4 times x plus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16. From here, I'm going to divide everything by 16. As I do that, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange it in the correct form. My minus is first, I want it second, so I'm going to move the second term to the front. So that'll get me a y minus 1 squared over 16 minus x plus 2 squared over 4 equals 1. There's my equation in standard form. So from here, since my y is first, the direction of my transverse axis will be vertical. My center will be at, so a negative 2 goes with the x, and the y is 1. So let's look at our a value. So I know a squared equals 16. A therefore equals 4. So the length of it is 2 times 4, which is 8. Here, so my conjugate axis, b squared equals 4. So b equals 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So my vertices are going to go back to my center. So since it is a vertical, my y's are going to change. So I'm going to add my a value to my y's. So it'll be negative 2 and 1 plus or minus 4. So I get -2, 1 plus 4 is 5. And -2, 1 minus 4 is -3. When I plot it and graph it, those should be the corners of my box. So first things first, we're going to graph our center. So it's at -2, +1. Transverse axis is vertical, so I'm going to go up and down. So that's up 4, down 4. My conjugate axis is 2, so I'm going to go right 2, left 2. And therefore, those are the corners of my box. Okay. Yes, you must draw the box. The box helps you get your asymptotes because I use the corner of my box to get my asymptotes. Okay. Here are my vertices. I make sure I put those on top of my box so you can see, and I also know which way I'm drawing. Am I drawing up, down, left, right? Which way am I drawing? Vertical. That's up and down. So I want to make sure I go through those 2 points. Take my red pen, draw my asymptote. Again, please use a ruler so these are straight lines. You'll see on my note sheet, they are straight. On this program, I don't have the ability to use a ruler. And now we're going to draw our graph. So I'm going to go through the vertice and come ever close to the asymptotes, but not cross them. Okay, it is a rounded shape, just like as if I was drawing 2 parabolas. Okay, it is not a sharp corner like the corner of a box. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope this video helps.